It's hard to pinpoint exactly when I first started to hate her. Was it that day she told me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes that she was leaving? Or was it years before that, when I looked the other way as she buried her fingers deeper into my back with each lie, each betrayal? Maybe it was when I watched her slip into his arms as if I never existed. But if I'm honest with myself, I knew I'd been waiting for it all along. Her name was Claire, and for the first time in a long time, I say it without the tremor of love or longing that used to accompany it. There's nothing left. She destroyed it. I suppose I should start at the beginning, but even I can't remember what that was anymore. Who we were before all this, before the plan, doesn't matter. It's already been erased. What matters now is the fire in my chest, the only thing that keeps me from breaking apart. If I don't feed it, I'll burn to ashes. So I will feed it, and I will keep feeding it until it's done. I remember the night it all came crashing down. I wasn't supposed to be there. I never meant to see what I saw. I walked into our apartment like any other evening, tired from a long day at the office, expecting a warm embrace from the woman who shared my bed, my life. Instead, I found her in the arms of another man. His name was Greg, our friend, my so-called brother-in-arms. The kind of guy who pretended to be everything he wasn't. The kind of guy who would make small talk with me about stocks and work while he slid into the one thing I loved more than anything else. That was the moment, I think, when I stopped being a person and started becoming a thing. A hollow shell of the man I used to be, betrayed, weak. She didn't see me at first. She didn't notice when I stood there in the doorway, fists clenched, throat tight with the kind of fury I had never known. They were wrapped in each other, so oblivious to my presence, their laughter cutting through the stillness of the night. I could have called out. I could have shouted, confronted her, but I didn't. I wasn't ready. I didn't have the strength to say the things that had been building up inside me for so long. No, instead, I turned and walked away. I let them have their moment, but not for long. Not for long. I didn't go home that night. Instead, I took a walk, trying to find something that might calm the storm inside me. I ended up at the bar, staring into my glass like it held all the answers. I didn't need answers. I needed revenge. That's when I realized something. I had no intention of confronting her. I had no intention of making it right. I was past that. I didn't want to fix anything. I wanted to make her feel everything I was feeling. Every single moment of agony. Claire would pay. Greg would pay. And I was the one who would make it happen. But first, I had to think. I had to plan. When I got home, the apartment was empty. No trace of her. She hadn't even left a note. The coward. It took everything in me not to pick up the phone and call her, to demand some kind of explanation. But I knew better. Explanations are worthless. It was already over. She had made her choice. Now I was going to make mine. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat there, staring at the wall, wondering what the first step of my revenge would look like. The plan, as I would later call it, took shape slowly. It wasn't a single event that would ruin them, no. It was a series of calculated moves, each one designed to strip them of everything they had. I wasn't just going to take back what was mine. I was going to destroy them, piece by piece. The first step, of course, was to get closer to Greg. I had to pretend like nothing had changed. I had to act like I still trusted him, like he was still my friend. It would be easy enough considering he had no idea what was coming. No idea that I had already begun to weave a web of lies and deceit around him, each thread tighter than the last. I couldn't just kill him. No, that would be too simple. That would make me no better than him. I had to ruin him, break him down in ways he couldn't even comprehend. So I watched, I studied, and I waited. He would slip up, sooner or later. They always do. The days that followed felt like weeks. Every morning I woke up with one thought in my head. I will destroy them. Every minute of every day I kept my eye on them. I watched Claire's social media posts, scouring for any hint of guilt, any sign of remorse, but there was nothing. She posted photos of herself with Greg, making it all too clear how quickly she had moved on. And Greg? He couldn't even be bothered to delete me from his contacts. I was still on his phone, still a part of his life, despite everything he had done. It made my stomach churn, but it also fueled the fire. And then, one evening, it happened. I ran into Claire at a coffee shop. I didn't plan it. I didn't even see her until she was right there, sitting at a table by the window. She looked so calm, so at ease. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw my drink in her face. Instead, I sat down across from her, like nothing was wrong, like we hadn't just shattered a decade of shared history. "You're looking well," she said, a weak attempt at politeness. "You're still with him," I replied, my voice colder than I intended. Her eyes darted to the side, guilt flickering across her face for just a moment before she masked it. "It's not like you think." "Then what is it like, Claire?" I leaned in, my voice low, dangerous. "What is it like to lie to my face every day? To pretend you love me while you're fucking my best friend?" Her mouth tightened, her eyes shifting nervously. She was trying to hold it together, but I saw it. I saw her break just a little, and it felt good. "Take this." "We were falling apart, Jake," she said softly, as if that explanation was enough. "I needed more." "You needed more?" I laughed, bitter and hollow. "You didn't need more. You needed him. You needed someone to replace me." Her eyes flashed with anger, but she couldn't deny it. It was true. "I didn't come here to fight," she said, standing up to leave. "I thought we could be civil." I didn't let her walk away. "Civility? Is that what you're going to call it? You've destroyed everything, Claire, and now you think you can walk away from the wreckage without consequences?" She stopped, her back stiff, her shoulders tense. I could feel the wall she was building between us, but it didn't matter. I had already decided she would pay. "I don't owe you anything anymore," she said, voice trembling with emotion. "Just remember one thing," I said, standing up to meet her. "You can leave me behind, but I'm not leaving you behind. Not until I've taken everything from you." Her face paled, and for the first time I saw fear in her eyes. That was all I needed to see. I waited, and in the waiting, I knew what I had to do next. The seeds of the plan had been planted, and now I would water them, watch them grow, and soon Claire and Greg would both be mine to ruin, and I would take my sweet time doing it. Time is a funny thing when you're holding on to a plan. It moves so slowly, like a clock with a broken gear, dragging its hands around in fits and starts. Every second feels like an eternity when you are so close to the edge, yet so far from the inevitable. Every day I watched, listened, waited, and with each passing moment I felt the anger and pain deepen. Claire had destroyed the man I was, but she didn't know that she was about to be consumed by the monster I was becoming. I let her believe that I had moved on. I let her think that I had let go, that I had accepted it all. But in the quiet corners of my mind, I was sharpening the blade of vengeance. She thought she was free, but every move she made was another piece of the puzzle, another clue to her eventual undoing. The first phase of the plan was complete. I had put my distance between Claire and myself. I let her think I was done with her. No more phone calls, no more pleading for closure. I became a ghost in her life, disappearing without a trace. But I never really went anywhere. I was always watching, always calculating. I was learning who she had become in my absence, and it disgusted me. She wasn't the woman I had once loved. She was a stranger, a hollow version of the person who had torn my heart apart. And yet, I still couldn't help but wonder, did she love him? Or was he just a replacement for the life she no longer wanted? I kept tabs on Greg too, my best friend, my brother, the man. Now, I watched him like a hawk. He had no idea, not a single clue that I was in the shadows, waiting for him to make a move. He thought he could still trust me, and that, in itself, was delicious. His arrogance, his ignorance, it was almost enough to make me laugh. Almost. It was his birthday that marked the next phase of my revenge. Claire had invited me to the party, knowing full well that I would come. She was desperate to show that we could all be friends, that things could go back to normal. But I wasn't coming to that party to play nice. I was coming to make them feel the weight of what they'd done to me. I was coming to expose the lie, to make sure that every single person in that room knew exactly who they were and what they had done. The night of the party, I dressed the part. Not too flashy, but just enough to catch her eye. I wanted her to see what she had lost, even if she couldn't admit it to herself. I wanted her to feel the sharp edge of regret. Greg was already there when I arrived. I could tell by the look on his face that he didn't expect me to show up, but there I was. Claire greeted me with that forced smile, the one she always wore when she knew she was playing a part in some elaborate lie. Her eyes flickered over to Greg, and I caught it, just for a split second. Her hesitation. It was as if she wasn't sure whether to be relieved or ashamed that I had come. But she was too proud to show any sign of weakness, so she plastered that smile on even wider. "Jake," she said, her voice too bright, too cheery. "I didn't expect you. It's been a while." I didn't say anything at first. I just looked at her. Really looked at her. The woman I had once adored. She was still beautiful, still captivating, but now there was something hollow about her, something cold, and I wondered, as I stood there, whether I had ever truly known her at all. "I thought you'd want to see the new me," I replied. My voice was calm, controlled, even though my insides were twisting with rage. The conversation flowed from there, nothing more than polite small talk. I could feel Greg's eyes on me, trying to figure out what I was up to. But he didn't understand. He never would. He wasn't part of the plan. He was just a pawn. The hours stretched on, and I made sure to keep my distance, to stay just far enough away from Claire to make her wonder if I was still in control. Every time I saw her glance at Greg, I made sure to be watching. Every time Greg's laugh rang out, I made sure to hold her gaze a little too long. It was a game of chess, and I was playing it perfectly. As the evening wore on, I saw Claire growing more and more uncomfortable. It was subtle at first, just the tightening of her jaw, the flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. But I knew her too well. She couldn't stand the thought that I might be okay without her. She couldn't bear the idea that I had moved on, that I wasn't hanging on her every word, every gesture. By the time the cake came out, I had her exactly where I wanted her. She was so focused on me, on my presence, that she barely noticed Greg's fidgeting, his discomfort. He had no idea what was coming, and I relished that. But then, as if by instinct, I caught her whispering something to him. A look passed between them, one I knew all too well. She was still his in ways I couldn't begin to describe. It was then that I realized with a sickening clarity that I hadn't just lost Claire, I had lost her to him, and that realization cut deeper than anything else. But I wasn't about to let her get away with it. I wasn't about to let her walk through life without consequences. So, I made my move. The plan I had been building for weeks, months even, began to take form. I knew exactly how to use her weaknesses against her, how to make her unravel in ways she never could have imagined. I knew what I had to do next. I watched the scene unfold, a twisted smile creeping at the corners of my lips as I realized that the game had only just begun. They thought they had won. They thought they could live their lives as if nothing had happened. But I was about to make sure they knew just how wrong they were. I wasn't done with them yet. There's something oddly satisfying about watching a plan unfold. The careful manipulation of every piece, the way everything fits together so perfectly, until, of course, it all starts to crumble. But that's the beauty of it, isn't it? The fall, watching it all come down. It's what I live for now. Claire and Greg had no idea what was waiting for them, but I was getting closer. Every move I made, every piece I pushed into place, it was all for this moment, the moment they would lose everything. After the party, I started playing my hand more aggressively. I'd learned more about Greg in a few short weeks than I had in years of friendship. The man had secrets, deep ones, things that would destroy him if they ever came to light. And I was going to make sure they did. I knew that Claire wasn't truly in love with him. She never was. She was in love with the idea of him, something that had helped her bury the pain of betraying me. But it wasn't real. I could see it in the way she looked at him when she thought I wasn't paying attention. It wasn't love. It was just a replacement. She wasn't trying to find someone better. She was trying to erase me. But I had no intention of letting her forget. The first step was simple. Ruin Greg's reputation. He wasn't just some random guy. And I was going to tear it all down. I started small. I began leaking information to his competitors, subtle hints about his shady business dealings. I fed them stories of his late payments, his tax evasion schemes. It didn't take long before whispers of his financial troubles started to spread. It was all very professional, very calculated. By the time the public found out, Greg's credibility was already in tatters. He didn't even see it coming. And then, just as he started to lose control of his business, I made sure Claire noticed. I had always known that Claire couldn't resist drama. She thrived on it. So, I made sure to put on a little show. Nothing too obvious, but enough to get her thinking. I left subtle clues around her, planted little seeds of doubt about Greg. Comments from mutual acquaintances, rumors from people she trusted. All of it pointed to the same conclusion. Greg wasn't as reliable as she thought. It wasn't long before she confronted him. It was a beautiful thing to watch, their relationship starting to unravel. She had always prided herself on being in control, but now she was starting to feel the weight of everything she had built on a lie. I could see it in her eyes. She was scared, confused, and angry, and I was right there, watching it all burn down. But the most beautiful part? She couldn't blame me. She had no idea I was behind it. Not yet. As Greg's empire collapsed, I pushed Claire further into uncertainty. She started questioning everything, her choices, her life, her future. She hadn't expected this. She hadn't expected me to come back as a shadow, haunting her every step. She hadn't expected me to be the one who would make her pay. But now I could see it. The cracks were appearing. They were starting to break. And I wanted more. I wanted her to feel the same emptiness that I felt, the same sense of loss and hopelessness. I wanted her to lose it all the way I had. But this time, I wasn't going to give her the chance to explain, to make it right. There was no redemption for her, no escape. She had made her choice, and now it was time for her to suffer. I started pushing harder. The first thing I did was arrange for the media to start digging into Greg's past. It wasn't hard. He had a history of shady dealings, ones he thought were buried and forgotten. But nothing stays hidden forever, and I had a way of making sure the press found exactly what they needed to ruin him. By the time the scandal broke, Greg was already on his knees, trying to salvage what was left of his reputation. Claire watched as everything he had worked for crumbled. But that wasn't the worst part. No, the worst part was watching her realize that I had been right all along. She thought she could just walk away, move on, and forget me. She thought that I would stay in the shadows, weak and broken. But I wasn't weak anymore. I was the one in control. By the time the final blow came, I had done everything I could to tear them apart. I had made sure that Claire couldn't even trust herself. She had destroyed me. But I was going to make sure she knew what it felt like to lose everything she cared about. I had to make her understand the cost of betrayal. I made one last move. I sent Claire a message. Simple. Direct. Did you ever think about how this would end? Did you ever think about me? She responded almost immediately, her fingers trembling on the screen. I'm sorry, Jake. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. It was a mistake. A big mistake. But it's too late now. Please. I could have ended it there. I could have given her the closure she wanted, the apology she was looking for. But I didn't. I had already made my peace. The only thing that mattered now was seeing them both suffer. I sat back, the screen glowing in front of me, and for the first time in months, I smiled. It wasn't a smile of victory. It wasn't a smile of satisfaction. It was something darker. Something I didn't quite understand, but I welcomed it. The weight of it. The weight of knowing that I had finally won. In the end, revenge hadn't given me back what I lost. It hadn't healed me. If anything, it had hollowed me out even more. But there was a certain peace in knowing that I had taken control. I had shown them both that betrayal has consequences, that no one gets away with it. And as Claire and Greg's world burned, I was the one who watched from the shadows, content in the darkness. But for how long? That was the last move in my plan. There was nothing more to do now. The pieces were all in place. But as I looked at the destruction I had caused, I couldn't help but wonder, was it worth it? Was I finally free? I didn't have the answer. But for the first time, I didn't need one.